Thank you for joining XROM, India's first AR/VR focused podcast. And today I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Keyur Bhalavat, who is the co-founder and chief executive officer at Plutomen. And today, the topic of discussion is going to be how XR is powering frontline workers. So, Keyur, really appreciate you taking time being part of the podcast. Keyur, will you be able to give an overview of or your understanding of what the metaverse is? And besides metaverse, because you guys are specifically driving or fronting industrial metaverse, will be really awesome if you could also explain what the industrial metaverse is.
So, Eddie, thank you for inviting me here. So, what I'll do is I'll step by step go, correct? So, we have seen many a times even the understanding on AR, VR, XR is also not there, correct? So, as a technology has evolved in last lot of years, while if you see a simple HMI, correct, which when we talk from industrial perspective, on every machine, there is a screen which has been used, correct? Initially, to control that machine, you used to use mouse and all. Then there was a screen which came in, we call it HMI, human machine interface. It is quite digital. And then came in situations where through gestures and now through hand gestures and eye movements, we are controlling things, correct? So the technology has evolved well. And then when it comes to XR and then Metaverse, we have seen people synergizing to an extent. Metaverse again is a piece of multiple technologies, wherein XR is one of them. Then it has AI, then it has blockchain, it has a lot of other technologies. Here, I'll try to restrict myself more to AR, VR, generative AI, and especially digitalization per se when it comes to industrial metaverse. Typically, I have seen industries adopting this technology in multiple formats. Predominantly, it has been training, and that's where we focus on, correct? So if you see Plutomen as a overall setup, our focus is how we can solve the frontline skill gap, correct? So that's where when it comes to industrial metaverse, it is about how industries can virtually, without a constraint of being physically available, how they can actually provide training, how they can assist a person who is on the job anywhere, correct? Or can give access to repositories or knowledge bank anywhere in the world, so that people can access the overall data which is required by them. So on one front, metaverse is a second in the gamer front of view, it is more of a second life or a virtual avatar. And from the industrial perspective, it is about digitalizing their complete processes, their machines, and then typically aligning it with their frontline team, their managerial team, so that they can communicate faster and easier.
Lovely. Keyur, really appreciate you differentiating between metaverse and industrial metaverse. And you rightfully pointed out, the evolution of technology has changed our interfaces. And today, I think, we should be breaking away from the 2D interface and getting into the 3D interface. And through that, industry specifically is going to be hugely impacted. There's going to be digital twins of the physical assets, factories, which is going to give you live data and through which you're going to have predictive learning and so on and so forth. Try and possibly make it simplify this for the users by giving use case and also explaining how Plutomen is engaging industries and providing these services.
So what we have done is we've tried to divide our overall platform into three parts. One is remote assistance, other is work assistance, third is self-assistance. So remote assistance is where it's a AR-based video collaboration tool. So let's say if I have been working on a commissioning or a installation of an equipment for my company and I am looking for an expert support, correct? I can connect over a video call and get support directly. Or let's say as a company, I have delivered an equipment and then customer has some problem operating that machine. I can virtually, rather than I going there, can virtually help them solve the problem so that I can decrease their downtime. So our first use case is remote assistance, or I would say remote troubleshooting, remote training, remote on-the-job help. Second use case is digital work instruction or work assistance, wherein what we have tried doing is on one front, we are digitalizing their entire manuals. So even if we take a very simple example of a microwave, correct, at our home, we might only be knowing one or two buttons, correct, that plus 10 seconds, plus 30 seconds and start stop. And the booklet which comes with the microwave, maybe we have kept it somewhere else, correct? So same thing happens with a lot of equipments when they are delivered to industries, that the hard manual goes at some other place, and when the equipment is delivered, they might be doing a one round of training, but then there is an attrition, there are resource revolving around. So how to maintain that standard of operation, correct? So if we can digitalize that hard copy in a format which is easily consumable by the people who are on the floor, correct? It is step-by-step guide. It could be a simple SOP. It could be a maintenance sequence. It could be a troubleshooting sequence as well, correct? So digitalizing that piece. Second, also digitalizing that checklist. We have seen how advanced they have gone, but most of the shop floor still does their audit or inspection on paper, and then they go to office and punch it, or they just upload their PDFs, correct, or images. So we trying to even digitalize that piece and make it completely hands-free, correct? So that's the second area where we operate, and we can even merge both these two. Let's say I am doing a maintenance and I have some trouble finding a next step. I can connect to an expert, get it solved, and then I move to my next step of maintenance, correct? So these are the two solutions. And the third is self-assistance, wherein we have created 3D immersive training as our offering. Majorly what we have seen when it comes to XR is the problem of creating of content, correct? What we have tried doing is we have tried creating a platform wherein the OEMs can import their engineering drawing. Our tool converts that into a mid-poly kind of a model. And the trainer or the manager of the industry themselves can put in steps and publish. And that's where even the publishing can be done on a simple handheld devices like the iPads or tablets or any phone, and the output can directly be seen on Oculus, correct, or any other VR devices. So there are a lot of use cases where we are exploring how the industry is shifting, and that way we'll slowly shift our use cases as well.
Lovely. Awesome. How cool is this? So you got like remote assist, work assist, and self assist, which is going to be like a pretty much like a no code thing. So you don't have to do anything. You provide your CADs, and your engine kind of converts into low poly models, and then the team kind of adds in whatever the data that they want.
Right.
In voila, you've got like a specific application.
What
OEM. So very, very cool. Keyur, will you be able to kind of like break this down between the remote assist and work assist on the kind of services that you have provided to companies, or like in ways where you could give it examples of maybe the companies, possibly or specific industry sectors, how this remote assist as well as work assist can help companies?
I'll take two examples. So one example is a company which is into creating equipments for food and beverage industries, correct? So when I supply equipment to food and beverage industry, let's take an example. The end company is likes of Kingfisher, Coca-Cola, or any other equipment as in beverage company, correct? Typically a line speed of this kind of beverage companies ranges from somewhere around 800 bottles to 1200 bottles a minute, correct? And there are 11 equipments which are in line, which gives this output, correct? So let's say in an hour, it is somewhere around 50,000 bottles which are getting as a throughput. Imagine any of one equipment getting down. So the top line loss is almost 50,000 bottles per hour, which is almost equal to 50,000 into 20 rupees. If we consider as a simple bare minimum price, it is 10 lakh rupees an hour, correct? So imagine the guy who is nearest to the location, if he has to travel, he'll at least take 4 to 5 hours to go there and repair, correct? So a single unplanned downtime would cost them minimum 50 lakhs of downtime, correct, as in top line loss. So that's where if we can collaborate remotely, a lot of times because of IoT and other HMI related things, people are able to access the remote equipment, but only software parts can be taken care of. Once they are clear that what needs to be replaced, either they can tell the person who is near to the machine, or they have to send someone, correct? So if we can guide the person who is near to the machine, the problem can be solved faster. So that's where the use case comes, as in our remote assistance comes into play, wherein even if out of 5 hours, if we can save 2 to 3 hours, and imagine just one saving per month, correct? It leads to at least a saving of 3 to 4 crores as a top line, correct? So that's the impact which this can create, correct? And similarly, this is more on the equipment manufacturing side. Let's say same with the field service. So we have seen, if I just sit back or I'll just look into a perspective of what all benefits I can get. So one is customer downtime is getting reduced, so customer satisfaction is there. Second, from perspective of the OEM, see, my resource would go there. So let's say 5 years of going, 5 years of coming back. So 5 hours, so almost 1 day or 2 day of activity for a 2 hours or 3 hours of actual work, correct? So instead of that, I can remotely support that operation and it might take 3 hours. That individual guy can take at least 2 to 3 assignments per day. But if he has to visit and do it, he is going to take only one assignment in 2 days. So productivity improvement on the OEM is also another area. And third is travel. He has to travel and come back. One of the customers, I would say, one of the customers into this compressor manufacturing. We did a simple calculation of their carbon credit saving, correct? And only domestic travel, India domestic travel was considered. Single engineer can save more than 7 tons of CO2 in a year, correct? So imagine 200 employees. It's 1400 tons of carbon which is getting saved, and this is just domestic travel, no international flights, just one international flight, the spike, the reduction is huge, correct? So that is remote assistance for us. When we talk about work assistance, so what we have seen is, as I said, largely people prefer paper and pen when it comes to auditing or checking the things while they are on the field. So that's where we have seen a lot of evidence issues and all coming in, that I have written 88 or 39 as temperature. I don't have proof for it. The image I would have taken and then it gets mixed with my WhatsApp images and whatnot, correct? So the structured evidences are missing sometimes when it comes to auditing and inspections. So that's where digitalization, especially in the remote areas, especially in the utility side of things, so telecom, oil and gas, power renewable, they prefer having digitalization of their work instruction, correct? So that they can maintain, they can track the overall field service operations, plus they can get the I would say audit related compliances in terms of images and other videos which they want to take, correct? And so that's, and even they are the remotest place. So if someone wants to repair something or there is a maintenance to be scheduled, if you have those guides available, it becomes easy for the person to operate also, correct? So that's an area where work instructions comes into play. Additionally, maybe you have not asked, but then just a thing to add, this can be also integrated into their existing ERP ecosystem, correct? So that's where that gives a larger perspective.
Right. For the enterprise solutions, what are the HMDs that you're using, AR, VR, MR, and how easy or difficult has been acquiring these HMDs?
Correct. So what we do is, so let's say for AR, VR, one thing which we have tried doing is we have been a device agnostic approach, correct? So we are device agnostic, system agnostic. That means, let's say any ERP you have, we will integrate. Any device you have, we integrate, correct? So it works on your mobile phone, it works on a browser also, it works on your laptop, desktop, tablets as well, correct? And smart AR glasses and few of the solutions on VR, correct? So what typically we have seen is that the adoption of realware in AR glasses are higher than any other AR glasses. So Vuzix are there and other companies are also there, but we have seen realware adoption comparatively higher than any other smart AR glasses. So we are also an ISV partner. So how we typically try to operate is we become a ISV partner to the hardware provider, correct? So that we have control over their overall supply chain, plus we can understand what's coming next through them and via them, correct? So, and we also push the hardware companies to take us along when they sell their hardware. It should not be that we get to know that we push their hardware. It should be, so we ask them that it should be a two-way approach. That if someone is coming to you for, let's say, inquiry of smart AR glass, push our solution as well, correct? So basically, if you're selling in India, you should sell our solution which is made in India, correct? So Atmanirbhar wala jo point hai, so we try to push them on that as well. And we have seen a lot of Indian enterprises also pushing for softwares and hardwares made in India, correct? But so for AR, it is smart realware was coming in play, correct, sometimes, but we have seen majorly realware winning the race kind of a thing. And VR, it's mostly Oculus, especially, and yeah, there are companies who go for HTC Vive and all, but lately we have seen the flux moving towards Oculus.
This AR, VR, MR, though it's the future and everybody's jumped in, right from, Meta being like the flag bearers of it, and now Apple jumping into the fray, and there's so many other companies who are building their own HMDs. But so far, still, it's been like a challenging business. I mean, in the early days, since there was just a few startups, the business was very cool. But then now it's become a little bit more competitive. The landscape has become more competitive. Business is not as good as early. This is my perception. What is your perception on the business? And what would your advice be to those other startups? How does one make money out of this business?
Before the advice to the startups and the individuals, I would first like to give advices to the CXOs, correct? So I have come across a lot of CXOs. They might not be understanding the overall impact of XR, but to derive the KPI. Okay, I have to have some XR element in my lab, or so they don't see a long-term value. They just go for a small pilot and that's done, correct? So that's where the change in the perception in the overall business strategy should come out, correct? So that's one advice, or I would say one area where, or a request to CXOs is in terms of going long term when it comes to, so because this is also a kind of evaluation, the way you make effort in IT infrastructure, this is part of IT infrastructure, correct? And second advice to CXOs again would be that I have seen that they might have seen XR 4 years back, 5 years back, they would have experimented with some smart AR glass, some VR glass 5 years back, but they are like, हमने देखा था, so we have seen that, and that was not so great, or we had some problems. So I always tell them that, see, technology is moving very fast, and with the kind of advancement which he has shown in last 2-3 years, currently it is at one of the peak, correct, with 5G coming in, with a lot of research happening in nanotechnology and all, the device comfort, wearing comfort, and the DOF, and also a lot of things have collectively been contributing to a better quality of devices and the softwares, correct? So these are the two humble requests which I have for CXOs. One, look into the overall fitment of your business strategy. Second, even if you used it now, because a lot of things have changed, correct? The reason I would say is people are more interested in just showing up rather than actual use cases. And the problem is partly not only of CXOs, but also of a lot of companies who are doing it, correct? So that's where the advice to the upcoming companies needs to be there, that you should be very clear on what use case are you solving, and it is for short term or long term, because we have short sold this technology very badly, that this will do X, Y, and Z. The expectations of this technology should be set from day one to the CXOs, rather than they filling it after 3 months or 6 months, and then they get averse to the technology. So that's where for any new person to join in, he should be clear what kind of use case, are there a value addition or a perception addition, what is it, and if it's a value added activity or a solution, then only he should pursue, or she should pursue and take it forward.
In my experience in this industry, I've realized that most of the enterprises who get into it are getting into it just for a short run, and largely looking at it as a marketing gimmick, and not understanding the true value of it. All of these tech stack is so potential that it can completely upend the way we work, and it's so important that the CXOs lay the foundational framework of how you can start leveraging it, get the right fit, because every company, I think, is going to or will require to leverage AR, VR, MR, AI, digital twins, IoT, because we were living in a physical world. And post-COVID, I think everything has been thrusted into the digital world. And that's plain to see with this cultural shift which is happening. My son, who's 8 years old, and it's not just my son, I mean, his age group, they all got into a digital world. All school is online. There's doctors which is being consultant is being done online. They're living largely in a digital world because the games and everything are being done online. And this age group is the future, because in the next 10 years these are going to be adults, and every brand's enterprise would obviously be looking at that segment of the population. So yes, I think CXOs need to look at it with a long-term vision and understand the true value of it, understand the right fit, and only then I think this technology will accelerate holistically and work in a way that it benefits everyone. Where do you think the money is at this point in time? Is there some intuition that you have, or your experience where the money is when it comes to XR?
Yeah, so currently, see, definitely there are. So one is gaming is never going to fade away, correct? So that's definitely the piece where the money goes, correct? Second is an area I see. Education is another area where a lot of things are happening, correct? So, and then the healthcare. So these are the three. Definitely in healthcare again can be divided into multiple verticals. But what I see, correct, is, and with my interaction in the industries, what we have also started doing, correct, when it comes to selling the solutions, we typically try to understand their pain points, correct? That, okay, we typically are, so globally, if we see the average retiring age, as in experts are nearing retiring age, or even as you rightly said, the new generation which is coming in is quite tech savvy. If you don't give them access to your knowledge base or digitalization, they might not stick around, correct? And a lot of skill gaps. So basically companies are going to spend a lot when it comes to reskilling and upskilling, correct? So that's where in industry, that's the meat, correct, of how you can train and retrain or unlearn, learn. And if you are able to contribute somewhere in that piece of meat from that enterprise, that's where we can mint out when it comes to XR. So basically it's about, for us in industries, it is about training the frontline and making them updated on by making them available through the knowledge base. So that's where I see a lot of things. But again, the money is there, but it is hidden, is what I understand when it comes to industrial enterprise. They are okay to spend like crores or billions, but you should be able to give them a compelling use case, correct? So the sales cycles are long. You have to do pilots, churn around, show them ROIs, and that's when they will come out with that land of gold, correct? That, okay, now you take it. So that's what I see, that's where sales cycle is also taking time, but then that's the patience which we might have to.
Right, fair enough. And entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I mean, when you get into it, I think the youngsters today are getting into setting up their own startups. But that's the reason you see, I think almost like the failure of startups is close to around 80 or 90%. It's just that 15% or whatever, it just hangs around. They are the ones who kind of, but I think that the entire culture is changing, and maybe more and more entrepreneurs are students also getting into the the new tech. They're understanding how important is to be resilient, frugal, and innovative to sustain and thrive.
One of the layer is how I can overlay the work instruction onto the actual object, correct? So let's say I have to fix a machine, or let's say there is a maintenance activity to be done. There are 10 steps. I just scan the equipment and I get the 10 steps. Step one, so I am pointed to that exact location of how to perform it, and then point 2, point 3, point 4. So that is another piece on which we are done with the R&Ds as a solution, as a service it is available. We are trying to make it more productized, correct? Second part is virtual nodes, where we have also seen that, especially when it comes to long audits or safety audits, plant audits, compliances, there are a lot of areas where people take simple notes on paper, take photographs, they go to the setup and then put in the notes, email around. We are trying the way we use sticky notes in the office, correct? typically it's a note which you can stick on the virtual environment. While it's an enterprise use case of audits and other compliance related setups, this can be used across, correct? It can be used by an individual in its own home, correct? Where you can stick virtual notes, but predominantly we're focusing on enterprises to start with, and then slowly it can be open to end consumers as well.
How's this generative AI, XR, 5G, digital twins? How's this convergence?
Maintenance, correct. So for me, business case as a whole is more important than the background as an underlying technology, correct? So currently as an enterprise also, companies are sitting on tons of data, correct? It could be bills, it could be analytics, it could be MIS, it could be their knowledge base, correct, of SOPs, of maintenance, XYZ. Creating information out of that data itself is a challenge, right? So if something, or there are already, I think people have already started working on it, but typically if I can have prompts wherein, let's say I have to repair a machine or do a maintenance, I just type in that, okay, this is the problem which I am facing. Out of the complete data, they come out with 2-3 examples. Okay, then last time this happened, this was the procedure followed by this engineer in this region, correct? So I follow it and I'm done, correct? So typically creating a chat GPT for an enterprise is what I guess, and then connecting it with remote assistance, for example, that, okay, I tried this, still not happening, let's connect and solve it, correct? So that's an area where things can operate. Second, let's say I filled the report. While I'm working, I fill the report, and rather than just getting a simple report, can I get a summary that, okay, last week compared to last week, the temperature X is increased. So please look into this 2-3 corrective actions. So rather than I trying to study the report, I get a summary of the report directly, correct? So there are a lot of areas where even industries can use it. It will evolve in next 3 to 6 months because again, once the fad ends, correct, of generative AI as a technology, that's when the use cases will evolve, and that's when people will actually use it.
Fair enough. If people want to reach out to you, if enterprise want to reach out to you, where best can they reach out to you?
So LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn, correct? And second, my email ID is keyur@plutomen.com, correct? So emails, LinkedIn's always available. Again, phone number is also there. So basically, but yeah, any medium, be it email or LinkedIn, I am available.
Lovely. Keyur, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. Leave us with your vision on the future, what the future of Metaverse and industrial Metaverse is going to be.
Even if you see our vision at Plutomen, correct, we envision a world where physical proximity is not the, I would say, factor for your knowledge or the expertise, correct? So that's our main focus, or I would say that's where I see the world going, correct? You are anywhere, let's say at a particular location, there is a problem. Even if you might not be the expert, you connect with the expert and get it sorted, correct? So that's what I see the world going with AI, with XR, with 5G, correct? And with, again, Metaverse coming in play. So that's what I would have to say.
Lovely. Keyur, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. Wish you and your team the very best. I think we're living in a fantastic point in time in the next few years when this technology gets more democratized and accessible for everyone. I think everybody stands, whether it's enterprise, whether it's consumers, whether it's brands. I think it's going to be completely upended. And rightfully, I think from this conversation, what I take is your advice to CXOs. I think people need to understand the long-term value of Metaverse, and not look at it as a marketing gimmick, and find that right fit. These are the 3 core things which I take from the talk, and I hope the listeners also understand, especially the CXOs, that this is a tool through which they can really create the future of business. So on that note, really appreciate you taking time and being part of my podcast. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate this.
Thank you.